You know, the Lincoln Club, I have to tell you, is something a little bit near and dear to my heart. I used to affiliate with the Long Beach chapter when it existed. Unfortunately, the pandemic, killed that chapter off. I have a brother who married a young lady who happens to be the niece, the granddaughter of a guy by the name of Julian Virtue. So if anybody here knows who Julian Virtue was, he is the founder of the Los Angeles County Lincoln Club. A little story I was told by Julian's son, my brother's wife's uncle, who's also known as the chair emeritus of he's another one of those fine virtues. That when we used to talk a little bit, when I started to get involved in politics around, he explained to me that, and you can see the underpinnings of this on the website for the LA County Republican Party. How did you guys come to exist? Within the county party, there is supposed to be an organization called the United Republican Fundraising Committee, UFRC. And the UFRC traditionally was essentially a committee of business people, representatives of different industries, areas of the county, and they would come together as a fundraising committee. The Republican Party of Los Angeles County used to raise in excess, it had $1 million, $1.1 million budget in 1971, to give you an idea about where it was. Prior to that, it was multi-millions. You go back into the 60s, the power base in all California politics was in the Republican County of Los Angeles. And what happened in 1978 was there was a little tiff that happened between Julian Virtue and I don't even know the name of the chairman of the Republican Party at that time. Julian was in charge of the UFRC. He was in charge of the fundraising community for the Republican Party of Los Angeles County. Those two got into a little beef, and apparently what it was is Julian was a big, and this is coming from his son, was a big believer in a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan. And if people remember, Reagan was one of these outsiders. He was a non-establishment Republican coming in, and so the powers that be in the world weren't necessarily thrilled with him. We now as Rush Limbaugh called him, Ronaldus Magnus. He's the great one that's there. But he wasn't that popular amongst the party types because he was coming from the outside of them. Well, they got in a little tiff. And apparently what happened was they were having a little discussion about whether or not they were going to back this guy Reagan or not. And there was the quote that was told to me was that the chairman of the Republican Party at the time said words to the effect to Mr. Virtue of, no, we're not backing this guy. It was you just shut up, you raise the money, I will spend it. And that caused him to say, that's not really what I'm here for. And he decided he took the entire UFRC committee out of the LA GOP and started the Lincoln Club. The Lincoln Club then was the major funder of the LA County Party for years. And as that has dwindled, essentially, it was one of those things that for years it went on, they continued to fund it, but the control of the money all was within the Lincoln Club. And this is one of the things that Mike and I have talked a little bit about, getting, a lot of the failure within Los Angeles is created, I believe, by this divide that occurred. And instead we had, and as there was less influence within LA GOP, what we used to call our plaque, Republican Party of Los Angeles County, that caused not only the county party to start going down, it caused the Lincoln Club to start going down. And both organizations, I believe, have been on a downward spiral because there hasn't been that coordination. And this is one of the things that, in reviving the Republican Party of Los Angeles County, I believe we also have to do this with the Lincoln Club. And so that's kind of where it's coming from my heart in terms of how did we get here, and how do we turn it around and fix it? You guys, and each of these chapters are a significant piece of that fix. And we've got to turn the Lincoln Clubs around. We've got to get them back into the positions they were before. And Mike, I know, is working on plans as to how do we do that, because the survival of republicanism in Los Angeles County depends on it. Let me talk about a couple things. This is me. I am the current chair. Just what's frightening to me is I just realized I've been chairman for a year now, which is just unbelievably scary to me. There we go. This is way too busy of a slide, but this is about me a little bit. The only thing that's really important on this is these pictures here. This is myself, my missus, my two boys, both of whom followed me into the Army. This one right here actually is still in the Army. He is an officer back at Fort Bragg. Was an infantry officer, just transitioned to something called a civil affairs officer, just finished French school. It's essentially becoming a diplomat is what the fancy thing he just changed into. This young lady down here happens to be my daughter, and she married a gentleman who was a protege of mine, a little Diego Duarte, and Diego is a JAG officer, and so both of my daughter and my son are back there in beautiful North Carolina at Fort Bragg. Let's see, been hanging around the Republican Party for years. I'm a lawyer by trade, a retired Army officer, and 28 years of doing all kinds of crazy things. And what else? I was a prosecutor at one point, been a defense lawyer, all kinds of things. What I like to talk about when I come out to organizations like this is what does it mean to be a California Republican? Because we're different, folks. I got news for you. We gotta accept that fact. We're not the same thing as a Republican in Kansas. We're not the same thing as Republicans in South Indiana. We're a little different. It always starts with me about what does it mean to be a Republican. And this is a quote that I use that comes from Eisenhower. It's from a conversation. I actually have the recording of this. It was done in 1962. It's a conversation between Reagan and Eisenhower. Reagan has asked Eisenhower, and if those of you who don't know, these two men were very close friends. And in fact, the transition of Reagan from being a left-wing, SAG-carrying, card-carrying, leftist card-carrying guy in the late 1940s and 1950s, to coming over to being Ronaldus Magnus, our great conservative warrior, was because of this man. And another guy by the name of Barry Goldwater. Those were his two mentors in terms of bringing him around. But he talks to Eisenhower and he says, what is it? It basically has Eisenhower says, what does it mean to be a Republican? And Eisenhower answers, he says, Republicanism means to me that you believe in the preeminence of the individual. And when I heard this speech, I transcribed the entire thing because I wanted, that hit me so hard in terms of what does it mean to be a Republican. It means you believe in the preeminence of the individual. And I don't care if you're a life voter, I don't care if you're a Second Amendment voter, if you're a constitutionalist, you're a taxpayer voter, all of those things come down to the one combined. Now, why do those people exist in the same organization? Because we all believe in the preeminence of the individual. It's the foundational tenet of it. He does talk about it's the individual who has rights. They must be free to live their liberty. Our strength comes from a nation, not from a particular group, but actually from the individual. And our belief in the preeminence of the individual, I'm here to tell you, is not only our greatest strength, it's also our greatest weakness. Because all too often, we as individuals, we start running off in different directions, as opposed to our friends on the other side, who are the collectivists. He finishes off and he says, stated in terms of policy, being a Republican means that whatever can be done by private effort should be done by private effort. So the individual must, any job that has to be done, the individual has to be left to do that job. Unless they're an organization, church, a charity, whatever it is, those private entities have to take care of that they're the primary people taking care of our communities. Only if that job must be done, then can you look and say, if whatever must be done by private effort should be done by private effort. If a job must be done by government, then local first. And only if local can't handle the job that must be done do you ever look to the state. And then only if the state can't do it should a job be considered by the federal government. That is a completely inverse of our leftist friends. Everything with them is the collective. It's got to be, there ought to be a federal law. We should mandate this across all the states. Every state should be the same. That's it. That is a fundamental difference in the thinking between a conservative, a Republican, and somebody who's on the left or Democrat. Is that where do you start in terms of solving problems of society? So where are we right now? I think we're probably somewhere right about here, right between 1984 and Brave New World and Fahrenheit 451. We're somewhere. We're definitely not in Kansas anymore, I can tell you that. California, we are in trouble, folks. And the salesman of the year up here, dear Gavin, the numbers are staggering when you start looking at who's bailing out of the state. You want to know where your friends are going? I mean, I don't need a show of hands of how many know somebody or are familiar with somebody who's bailed out of the state. It is. A couple of years back, I was going through one of our old phone lists, and I was calling people, and I found a good phone number, and I talked to this person, a local phone number, and I said, hey, I want to know if I can come out and walk precincts with me. He says, I'd love to, except I live in Nashville now. So, all right. California's population decreased by over 500,000 people, and this is from my good friends. I love the Los Angeles Times. They screwed up this article. This article actually said some facts in it, which is very unusual for most of the stuff. Because I do take the LA Times. Anybody in here take it?
Just Sunday.
Just Sunday. All right, very good. Another one at the back. See, I am being the old military officer. Sun Tzu, The Art of War. One of the main things you have to do is you have to understand your enemy's thinking in order to defeat him. And so the LA Times is the most beautiful thing to understand what the left is thinking in this state. They literally lay out their battle plans in there. I mean, they do. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what's going on. And as long as you can get through the fact that they start adding all of these opinion words in the middle of their article, and yeah, I know it's debunked. We know, all these theories. But this is kind of the facts that we're looking at. When you look at these numbers, the net exodus out of California was 700,000 people. That net exodus is a lie. Well, it is. It's a correct number. But the real number of Californians who've left is 1.2 million. 1.2 million of our fellow citizens bailed out of the state. 500,000 people showed up from somewhere. Where do you think they're coming from? I'm telling you, they're not tax-paying businesses. It's not on this slide, but California, we lost. So about a month ago, they published a number that we have lost about $1.3 trillion in taxable revenue to the state of California. This is going to start hitting our budgets. You think we're in trouble now, wait until you start seeing the next couple of budgets, because we've been able to smooth it over with all of this gift money from the COVID stuff, and we've been able to just, as long as we're sucking up the inflation from them printing money, they're happy as can be, because they can tell us that we're still okay, our budgets are still okay, but it's going to come hit, and it's about to, because we're losing all those people. And you'll see that for what we've lost, I mean, this is the one place New York beat us. They actually had the population decrease just a little bit greater than ours, over 500,000. They were 514, we're about 507. It's the only place New York beat us is they lost more people than the state of California did in raw numbers. But you can see down here, you look at Florida and Texas. Everybody says, gee, how did Ron DeSantis add all of those nice Republicans down there in Florida? Oh my God, what a great job he's done. You're welcome very much, Governor DeSantis, because I know where they came from. They're bailing out of here. The biggest problem we have as a state is we're also exporting some of our crazy leftists who frankly haven't figured out that the reason this state is falling apart is their own damn policies. And so we're also, I tell people we're exporting some of our filth too. And that filth is going there with these ideas about, oh, we'll bring about the socialist utopia of California. So when you take these numbers and look at them and you blow them up, the county of Los Angeles by itself lost 160,000 people in the 12 months prior to this article, which is from March of this year. All right. And you can see that that winds up, when you take those numbers, what that multiplies out into is the state of California has been losing 822 people per day. This is the thing in the yellow. They didn't put that in the article, of course. I just broke out my calculator and divided those numbers out by 365 in terms of the days. 822 people per day leaving the state of California every single day, 365 days a year. We look at the county of Los Angeles, 438 of those people every day. That's a net loss. Every day leaving this fine county of ours. So where the hell does the doom and gloom aspects of it start to come in? I want to talk. I hate demographic data. And the reason I hate it is because I grew up in a world that I don't see color. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what your background is. I don't care what you do. I judge people on what they are, but you know, the reality is you gotta actually look at some of these stuff, because the fix is in here. The fix to this state and to this county, because one of the things, I may touch on it in the slide in a bit, but I am here to tell you that the reason you don't have any statewide constitutional officers, governor, lieutenant governor, is because of the county of Los Angeles. Period. I can show you the numbers. There is nothing that anybody running for statewide office can do unless they lose the county of Los Angeles by less than 10%. They don't have to win it, they have to lose it less. If they lose it by less than 10%, there's a chance they can get the statewide race. We're currently losing, most Republican candidates are losing the county of Los Angeles by at least 20 points. They cannot win statewide. There's no way you can make the numbers up anywhere else in this state unless you can lose the county of Los Angeles by less. So looking at these numbers on here, you break down, this is the demographics for the county of Los Angeles. When you look at the groups, we're talking a little bit about your Hispanic, you hear that in that poll. The 2 Latinas that are named in it, I don't even know who they are. They're nobodies in the legal system. I deal with DAs all the time. They're not anybody. Why? They probably got Z's at the end of the day. Why is that? Because look, when you look at the Hispanic or Latino percentage in the county of Los Angeles, 49.1%. 49.1%. Second greatest group is, the second greatest group happens to be your whites, non-Hispanic, 25%. 25.3% Caucasian, non-Latino. Third greatest group is your Asian. I hate them clumping this together, because I mean, if you're going to sit there and tell me that Vietnamese are the same as Chinese or the same as Japanese, I mean, that is just completely insanity, but they group them all together because they're Pacific Islander, or they're Asian Pacific Islander group. But again, 15.6%. Last, African Americans, 9% in the county of Los Angeles. Now, when you look at these numbers, 15% and 49%, 65% of the voting population of Los Angeles County is in Latino or Asian populations. You tell me where the fix is at, I'll show you some things on it. This is the heat map from the last election of the County of Los Angeles. Vote by mail maps. You'll see on the northern, look at us down in here, we're all right about in this area right here in our county. You know, most of it is this lovely deep blue. We got some little pockets of red over here, some down here on the edge of Long Beach. And I call these areas my edges until we get to we get past north of Acton. And suddenly, when we get out there in the Antelope Valley, we start picking up these beautiful red, ruby red areas that are up there. Antelope Valley is where the Republican holdouts are in Los Angeles County. This slide right here is, again, these are numbers from the November election. This caused me to become a religious zealot in terms of what the RNC and the state party are now putting out as a policy, calling it bank your vote. Bank your vote is flat out, you better vote. When you get your damn ballot, turn the damn thing in. I don't care if you got to hand it to the registrar, you got to mail it in. I mean, you can track your ballot now by mail if you register it prior to putting it in. This slide right here, this is election day in Los Angeles County on November 8th of this last year. Does anybody know what happened? Remember what the weather looked like that day? Because we Republicans, we're going to vote election day. Fabulous. Yes, we are. You can trust us. I'm not turning my ballot in because I don't trust those people. Well, guess what? The Democrats were voting for 30 days. We, however, are going to vote for 12 hours. Genius idea. They're going to continue to pull their ballots in for 30 days, day after day after day, and we're going to sit there and pray our little voters get to the poll. You know what happened in Los Angeles? What was the weather in Los Angeles County election day? Raining. We got wet. Democrat turnout, about 40%. That is historically about the same. That's Democrats always vote at about 40%. You can rely on them for that. We Republicans, 51%. Historically, we voted about 65% of the vote. Where did those votes go, folks? They didn't disappear. People didn't want to get wet. They didn't bank their vote. They didn't turn their ballots in. It was too hard. My vote doesn't count. and now suddenly, why do I bother? Real quick on state party, I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the Republican Party. Most people have no clue on this. We are a bottom-up organization. The way the California Republican Party is organized, it is everybody says, oh, the state party ought to. Bull. Everything is done at this level. Everything is done at the county level. It's done at the precinct level. It is done at the assembly district level. The people who are on the ground, Los Angeles County is so damn big. We are broken down in 24 separate assembly districts. Those committees, the 7, people will all be voting for your assembly district folks when this next election comes around. They run the party. It is not the CRP, it's not Jessica Patterson. She provides general guidance and leadership. She tries to get resources, and she's freaking phenomenal at that. She is probably one of the best chairs we have had in decades in terms of putting this party together.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, except I read bad things about her all the time, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Anyway, you ought to read the stuff about me. I'm fabulous. I'm very excited about this. But understand, it is us. The party is not some board or executive board up in Sacramento. It's not the LA County Republican Party. It's you guys. And this is one of the biggest things that Republicans have to get into their damn heads, is no more sitting on the couch. That is not watching Fox News and pretending like you're involved. This is all fabulous and wonderful. But when you come to an event like this, this is not, oh, I did my political thing. You come here to get information to figure out how you got to go get active somewhere else. That's really what it comes down to. And until Republicans start thinking that way, until we start realizing this is just a starting point. If you go home and go, I did my thing, we call this then an eat and burp dinner. That's what that's referred to as. I go and I go, oh yes, the speaker was wonderful. The question is, are you getting out and going into politics? In politics, I used to tell people it's 3 things. You're either a candidate or you're recruiting candidates. If you're not doing one of those things, you're not really engaged in politics. You're either voting, and you're getting others out to vote, you're activating voters, you're calling them, you're walking precincts, you're trying to organize voters to get them out. I need candidates, I need good candidates, I need lots of voters, and I last need money.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 activities that are politics, period. Anything else is just frivolity. If you're not doing one of those things, you're not engaged in a political act. The County Party Central Committee. So look, our job, the purpose of the political party ultimately is to recruit the right candidates. And everybody says, oh, you know, you're just recruiting. No, right candidates are folks that come in, they reflect their communities. It is people that live there. It is people that they're known, people that are involved in things. I can't run. Years ago, there was a guy who was an officer in the Newport Beach Yacht Club back in the early 80s, I believe it was. He came up and he ran against Maxine Waters up in her congressional district. How do you think he did in that area of Los Angeles County? I'm telling you, he didn't. But that became the person, because you know, a lot of folks look around for where are these races at. But again, recruiting candidates, supporting candidates, raising money is what the political parties are supposed to do. Now, the raising money part of it is we have an obligation. The party has an obligation to back candidates as a general rule. It is not, we do not raise money for candidates. Probably the single most frustrating thing for political candidates coming in and goes, how much money is the party going to get me? And the answer is 0. You're going to get bupkis. Because candidates, you're going to learn this, candidates raise money for candidates. That's their job. The main thing that candidates do is figure out how to raise money. Political parties do. It used to not be this way. You go back in the 60s and 50s, it wasn't this way. It all changed when a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan came into town as governor. And he said, don't give money to the political parties, because the political party bosses used to collect all the money, and then they would dole it out to the candidates that they liked. That was how the smoky back-filled rooms worked. Well, Reagan came in and said, nope, 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 give it to me. That became his mantra. And that shifted everything. So in the late 60s, you have this complete shift, power decline of the political parties within this state, and you have this rise of the political candidates as a fundraising source. The real job, the last thing, the real job of the political party, the county party, is to deliver the base to the polls. The candidate has to go out and figure out how do you talk to the people in different areas. My job is to try to figure out how to deliver the base to the polls, not the fringe vote. And this is one of the big frustrations we get as Republicans. Because we get candidates out there and they say things that aren't pure. They aren't pure to the party. They have to, but they're out there trying to appeal to that vast number of other voters. My job is to get the base out. That candidate's job is to figure out how does he get from less than a third of the vote, and actually it's 18% Republican registration in Los Angeles County. That candidate has to figure out how do I make that difference between that 18% and getting to that 50%. I tell people, I give people, you know, who knows David Valadao, the name David Valadao. He is one of the 2 Republicans that has survived. He voted for impeachment on Trump. God, I hate him for that. He broke party ranks to vote for Trump. We should kick, I just was listening to somebody last night say, we should kick him out of the party. That's what we should do. David Valadao has been a loyal Republican vote, and he's a congressman from up just south of Modesto. Hanford area. He has been a loyal Republican vote on every single issue that's come up. Why did he vote for President Trump impeachment? He is a winner in a D plus 17 district, 17 percentage points more Republicans in his district. It's what his constituents wanted. They wanted it, and he had to figure out, how do I get these people to vote for me? And he's one of those races that won, and I guarantee you, when you start to, you know, what are they targeting to turn around? And you see, you know, first I heard about Caruso. Guarantee you he's one of the races, because he is a loyal Republican vote. I love him for that. I hate what he did, but you know what? I'm going to swallow down on it because he is in such a danger spot in the districts he's in. He won that race by a couple of hundred votes. And that's, guess what? We got a Republican House, kind of, sort of, these days. Yeah. We're going to fly through a couple of things. The members of the county committee, Lois was telling you, she's the chair of the 48th. These are I'm an elected official, believe it or not. I just had to pull my papers to go get on the ballot. Every 4 years, people who are the members of the party, every 4 years have to run for races. Los Angeles County broken down into 24 assembly districts, 7 persons per assembly district, theoretically 14 alternates. Our county committee runs to run a county that has 10 million people, 6.1 million voters. We wind up 7 people per district, winds up about 140 people trying to figure out how to organize 6.2 million voters. It's insane. Oh, last thing, so you understand the scope of Los Angeles County. We have within Los Angeles County, 17 congressional districts, 24 state assembly seats, 13 state assembly seats, and 13 state senate seats, 24 state assembly seats. And we were talking about local elections. I heard a water board guy here. Oh, I love that. Because we've got about 1,200 locally elected officials. When you talk about the 88 cities, each of those has at least 5 school board members, or city councilmen. You talk about 80 different school boards, independent school boards, each one of those with at least 5. Some of them, 7, 10, 15 members. Just depends. The party basically were built up of nothing but committee members and our ex-officios. Ex-officios are the people who run for office in partisan races. So they become members of the county committee. There's already an organization. Again, the county committee, this is more generic stuff. But we have a total of 160 potential members of LAGOP. That's all of our assembly districts, plus our ex-officio members. What we are not, what is the assembly district? So now we're talking about your local area here. What does it actually mean? What are these people supposed to be doing? What are they supposed to be doing? Their job is to they're the official members of the party. They're trying to organize it. They're supposed to work as strategic planners for getting other Republicans involved. It should be one of the things using, how do we bring our Lincoln clubs in? How do we bring our women's federated groups in? How do we bring, now we got Golden State Women, I think, also now. How do you coordinate all those groups to try to figure out how do we deliver the Republican base for the people who are voting for us? That becomes the county party's job. One of the things that I have, one of the biggest tension pieces that I believe has caused the destruction of essentially the Republican Party, the Republican politics in California, is all of our separate groups, whether it's Women's Federated, CRA, the Impact Group, everybody starts thinking that they're independent. Nobody's independent. Every one of us is the party. So when people start, and I love doing this to people, they come up, well, the party ought to, and I say, no, 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 you ought to. You're the one should be doing this. You think it should be done? Do it. People go, well, I think we should organize. Yes, you should. Go ahead. Because that is the biggest thing, that getting people to shift their mentality. They've got to get up off the couch. If they don't get up off the couch, we ain't engaged in politics. This is what's going to save us. It's us. Because I tell people, no one's coming for us, folks. There's no reserves. There's no backup. The RNC isn't going to come bail us out. The CAGOP isn't going to come bail us out. We fix it at this level, or it doesn't get fixed at all. And I'll tell you something, if we don't fix it here, you ain't fixing it, we're all moving. I tell people that. If we don't get this fixed here, we're all moving out of state. One of my favorite games, especially at the state party convention, is to walk up to people randomly and say things like, where are you moving? And they go, what do you mean? I said, in the last year you've given serious consideration to moving out of the state. Where have you gone? I will tell you something that anybody under the age of about 65 will almost always give me an answer. They always have an answer for me. Idaho, Tennessee, Texas, Florida.
Arizona.
It used to be Arizona's diminishing, because it's Arizona's turning. We have good Californians. Arizona is a perfect example of a state. The filth that we're exporting is screwed up. One of the most conservative states in the nation is now being flooded by Californians. And same thing with Nevada, and we're screwing that place up because, again, our leftists who are leaving here don't understand they're the frickin' problem as to why it is here. But this is the thing that happens, is that all of these organizations, the word Republican, in case anybody didn't know, actually belongs as a trademark to CAGOP. You can't use the word unless they approve. Now, they've given it the permission for county parties to also use that name, but they own the trademark. So I can't stand up and say, I'm going to start the Men's Republican Group without going to either the county party or the state party and saying, may I? We call that a charter. It's one of those things that, you know, nobody ever enforces it, but that's what it is. So every group that says it's a Republican group, legitimately, is part of the party. So where's the party? It's you guys. How do we fix it? By the way, this is the actual 1952 presidential results in that race. How do we fix it? This is how, you know, look, even Los Angeles County is a nice color of red there. Wrong button, folks. Look at this. San Francisco's voted red, conservative. Wasn't that long ago? This is not that long ago in terms of, you know, the human condition, folks. This is really very close by. And then you got a couple of remote counties where there's literally nothing out there that voted blue. The rest of this, you go back to the 1950 election, the entire state except one county is red. It's insane. So, how do we fix it? The first thing we got to understand is propaganda is everywhere. We are being inundated by it. Our media just kills us with it. You know, I do feel, you know, if any of you who are good 1984 fans, you know, George Orwell's book was not, it was supposed to be a warning to the future, not a blueprint. And that's what we're dealing with right now. You know, we're hearing, this happens to be my favorite sign in the world, one of the greatest propaganda pieces we have right now. In our home, we believe science is real. Black lives matter. Love is love. No human being's illegal. These are fabulous propaganda phrases. They are in, it's much like war is peace, freedom is slavery, what was the other one? What's the last one? What's the third phrase? War is peace, freedom is slavery, and then freedom is, ignorance is strength, I believe. Ignorance is strength.
Is that from '84? Yeah,
from 1984. That was the main propaganda pieces in Orwell. I mean, look at this. If this doesn't look, if you're familiar with if this doesn't look like a 2-minute hate, we're going to do some Black Lives Matter, you know, or Antifa rage quit. We're going to go, I hate the man. That is exactly what Orwell talked about. 2-minute hates. Everybody hates something. Yeah, I hate them. The Big Brother, you know, Big Brother comes in and says, you know, this is your enemy for the week. But this is the kind of stuff that we're looking at. You know, I love this. Women's rights are human rights. Tell me what rights women don't have in this country that we have to make that a propaganda phase, like we're dividing them out from somewhere.
But what's a woman?
What's it?
What is it?
Do I look like a biologist to you? So this is part of the fix. This is from an article written by the I just think Edward. It came out in the American Greatness, and it is one of the most fabulous pieces. It was a March piece. The piece was called "Realign California would Realign America," and he talks about what the solution is. Remember what I told you about those demographic numbers? The solution is here. Is when you start looking at California, when you start looking at Los Angeles County or California. His article was focused on California as a whole, but I'm telling you, you can extrapolate it down to Los Angeles County. Because what's missing out of this is if you realign Los Angeles County, you realign California. You realign California, you'll realign America. I can tell you that if we can get Los Angeles County fixed, and I don't mean that we turn it into a Republican majority, we lose it by less. You will flip the state of California. There won't be, and you'll flip the electoral process and the presidential rate. You won't have a damn Democrat elected for the next 100 years if you bring California. And it all is here. You guys are in the belly of the beast as to how do you fix this. He talks about, Edward Rings, that's correct.
What was it, Edward what?
Edward Ring, R-I-N-G. He's a fellow at the California Policy Institute. It's kind of a conservative think tank. Fabulous piece and does some great writing. He talks about, look, when you break it down demographically, let's talk about our Caucasian voters, our non-Hispanic whites. They come in two categories. They are either with us or they're immovable lunatics. That is all they are. You do not waste your time recruiting and talking to white voters. It's a complete waste of our time, all of them. Because they're either with us or they're immovable lunatics. Because I'm here to tell you that the mom dropping off little Chad out of the private school out in the Pacific Palisades in her Lululemon pants as she's going down to the Spectrum to go work out after she is not going to change her politics. Because she is not affected by these policies. She thinks what she's doing and voting for this liberal crap is a wonderful thing.
Right.
You're not going to change her. That gives us two other areas. Remember I told you about 65% of my electorate in Los Angeles County is where? It's in the Hispanic community and it's in the Asian community. You get those two communities, and guess what? This is one of the things Edward Ring talks about in this article. Those are inherently conservative communities. You're going to tell me the Latinos don't have conservative family values? The Asian family, they aren't coming from the place of hard work. You take care of the family, you stick together. They are the epitome of it, and they've been lied to. They have been propagandized as they come in and they said, oh, those wascally Republicans are racist and they hate you. You need to vote Democrat. The socialist hellhole your families were coming from before are what you need to bring with you. But the difference is he talks about the fact that they're waking up. And we have to get back in there and make them understand that the policies that create scarcity and high prices are designed to only benefit crony capitalists, which is as many of our little Google friends, people running Facebook, all of these policies benefit them. Public education, you're going to tell me that the Asian families and the Hispanic, Latino families don't care about the education of their children? It's falling apart in this state. Just saw some numbers, I think came out yesterday. We got the lowest that shows, oh, it's a pandemic fall apart. You know, it's because of the crap that we're feeding our kids in our schools. Again, punishing crime. It's the respect to scarcity. I mean, you're talking about a business. You know, you got a small businessman who goes out and he's got to now go buy fuel. Maybe he's mowing lawns for a living. God bless that guy. Now he's got to go out and buy gasoline for his truck that he can move his lawnmower to come to your house and mow your lawn and collect, you know, the $40 for the week that he's going to get paid for it. What's that gallon of gasoline costing him now? How much is that impacting his business? How many people are cutting off his service because the people that are running that place can't afford to have him come do their lawn for them? This is the cost of living. Public education, deregulation, and encouraging competition. These are some of the most competitive people on the face of the planet in our Latino and our Asian communities. And if we can get them back to the point where they recognize that, in fact, we are the party of their values, you're going to flip this entire county. And there's an awakening going on, I'm here to tell you. They're finally starting to go, we've been lied to. These Democrat policies are a lie. They're destroying our ability to raise our families. what are we going to do? I'm going to kind of shut this down a little bit. This is just things like get involved in politics is really what this comes down to. Neighborhood team leaders. This is a new concept. I shouldn't say it's a new concept. It's an old concept. We stole it from, frankly, Obama. Does anybody want to know how somebody, you know, I can tell you that if you had told me 30 years ago I'm a community organizer, I would go, it's nice to meet you. In the back of my head, I'd be going, good, I'm meeting a loser right now. I don't know what the hell this is. How does a guy who's a community organizer from Chicago become president of the United States? It's this concept. This is what they did to us. And it was basically about how do you go about organizing your neighborhoods. And that is, you know what that is? Folks, it's not talking to your neighbors. It's making friends. It's having a barbecue and inviting them over. And you don't get in their face and go, you better be voting for Trump! Because if you do that, you will get nobody to listen to you. What happens is you become their friends. And this is where this product essentially goes back to. I take responsibility as a member of the party in my neighborhood to get to know my neighbors as friends, to get to know them as people that we care about our community, interested in the issues we have here. Then, when election time comes around, they go, hey, how are we voting on this initiative, on this new tax? You know, hey, have you seen this? Have you had a chance to look at that new tax? That's terrible. Oh my God, can you believe that? And that multiplied by neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. Some loser with the title of community organizer winds up as president of the United States. That's how this is done. And I'm telling you, there's books written on it from a political science standpoint, which are just fascinating. Always, this is for volunteers. You guys are not necessarily there. A couple of last slides here. This was a slide, I actually built this in 2016. And one of the things that came out, Soros and his buddies, it was his main group was called Democracy Alliance. A guy by the name of Garland Marsh was running it. That was kind of his front group. They were all in on Hillary. They were spending money on Hillary like it was going out of style. They figured, you know, she was the second coming, and if you all remember, up until the election day, Hillary was going to win hands down. Well, what happened is that rascally SOB by the name of Trump wound up winning. And they had, just before Thanksgiving, they had a conglomeration plan for all of the billionaires that were showing up. That were, how are we taking over the world now that Hillary is here? And suddenly she doesn't win. So they had to really quickly retool their gathering of millionaires and billionaires, to figure out what we're going to do. And they put this stuff out on the internet. It wasn't just going to their media sources. They were putting it out, and I was seeing publications on it. They said, hey, this is the orders from Soros coming down. Was progressive donors and organizations need to immediately correct the lack of investment in state and local strategies. At the time, I said to myself, holy crud, they are stopping, they're no longer funding. They realized, the whole thing was, they realized spending money on the presidential campaign is a waste of money unless you own the locals. You want to know why I got George Gascon as a DA? You want to know why they have screwed up, why all of these Soros-funded prosecutors, secretaries of state, county clerks are now poisoning what we used to consider a neutral bureaucracy that would be fair to all of us with their leftist policies? There it is right there. You had a complete shift that everything was going down to the local level. It's us. We have failed to stop it at our level. And hopefully we'll see our first turnaround when Gascon comes up. Again, Nancy Pelosi, she's leaving, this is the House News article, that was from earlier this year. But they're literally targeting the 5 races in California. They're gonna flip our state on the races in here, just like Mike was talking about earlier. Last couple of things. Folks, and it's not a problem really with the Lincoln Club. I get it with a lot of the other disparate groups, as well I'll call it, you know, some of our other organizations. Like one of the things, I don't know if anybody's involved in the CRA at all. The CRA is a fabulous group, but somehow in the last decade they have decided they're the anti-party. And I've been going out and talking to them and saying, knock it off. You're not the anti-party, you are the party. And instead of every time the party leaders try to do something, they're looking for a way to undermine it. We have to stop this Republican circular firing squad. 10% of our party lives in a world that all they want to do is shoot at whatever somebody else is trying to do. They don't build anything, they just destroy. They criticize, they talk about, oh, you're not doing it right. This is one of the things that is really, we have to get back to the fact of understanding Reagan's old quote. There was wisdom in that, but nothing. and that is somebody who agrees with you 80% of the time is a friend and an ally, not a 20% traitor. And that is absolutely true. One of my favorite things, I refer to those people as jackasses. That's my word. The jackass is a Republican who commonly violates Reagan's 11th commandment of Republican politics. Thou shalt not speak ill of a fellow Republican. It is the single most destructive force. We do a better job of destroying us than the Democrats could ever dream of doing. And it's all the internal stuff that these people, their ego state, has to be, oh no, I'm right, you're wrong. This is one of the things that we have to ferret out and identify the jackasses in our party, because in fact, they are destroying us. And that's really where we think. All right. So last thing is you guys have come back to where I started basically, and that is, I love the fact you guys are crazy enough to come out here at 7:30 on a weekday to have breakfast and hear some crazy guy talk to you. You've got to get involved. And that means doing things like Lois is doing. Get in the central committees, start volunteering, walking, talking, calling people, figuring out who we can run in these campaigns, and funding them. Finding the candidates, fund the county party, fund the candidates that are there. Because they're all, if all of those things start happening, if all of us start taking ownership of it again, we can fix this place. There's still hope. Otherwise, if you don't get involved and you don't do it, we're all moving. Just tell me what state you're going to.